So anyway, before we start, remember the microphones around the board table are sensitive and this meeting is being recorded. So now to get started, I'll ask Denise to read the Open Public Meetings Act. Denise?
Good morning, everyone. This is to advise that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been forwarded to the Newark Star Ledger, the Asbury Park Press, the Courier News, the Daily Record, the Home News Tribune, the Jersey Journal, the New Jersey Herald, and posted in the Essex County Hall of Records in Newark.
Thank you, Denise. At this time, please join me in honoring our flag with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Denise, would you please take the roll?
Bergen County,
Present.
Essex County,
Present.
Hudson County,
Here.
Hunterdon County,
Present.
Jersey City,
Present.
Middlesex County,
Present.
Monmouth County,
Present.
Morris County,
Here.
City of Newark,
Present, not voting.
Ocean County is absent.
Mark Janke here.
Mark Jenke, thank you, sorry. Passaic County,
Here.
Somerset County,
Present.
Sussex County,
Here.
Union County,
Here.
Warren County,
Here.
the Governor's Office,
Here.
New Jersey Department of Transportation,
Here.
New Jersey Transit,
Here.
Port Authority,
Here.
Citizens Representative.
Present.
Thank you, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Denise. Next is the approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes of the March 10th board meeting? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Morris County will move the minutes.
Union seconds.
Thank you, Morris and Union. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Ocean County abstains.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we're going to move into the chairman's remarks. Thank you again for joining us this morning. I also want to take a moment to welcome Zoe Baldwin from our Regional Planning Association, who will be giving our featured presentation today. At our last few meetings, we've shared progress on connecting communities, the update to our long-range transportation plan, which the board will consider adopting in September. In addition to the roughly 2,000 people who have taken our online survey earlier this year, the NJTPA has been engaging people at pop-up events across the region in recent weeks. This month, we've talked to hundreds of people at events in Hudson, Hunterdon, Monmouth, Ocean, and Passaic counties. This weekend, the NJTPA will be at events in Jersey City, Morris County, and Bergen County. I'm looking forward to participating in any events in my home county of Middlesex later this month. We're not just talking to adults at these events. We've also heard from some of our region's youngest residents who submitted drawings sharing their vision for the future of transportation. Many of the kids hope to travel by flying cars in their lifetimes. That was supposed to be in our lifetime, too. But that's right, that's what I was thinking about. The NJTPA has visited 8 subregions so far and will have conducted in-person outreach in all 15 within the next 3 weeks. The input gathered online and through the events in this is informing the draft plan, which will be distributed to the board and RTAC members in coming weeks. The formal public comment period will be held this summer and will wrap up ahead of the August committee meetings. I want to remind everyone that that every other year we hold our July board meeting in the home county of our chair. So Ocean County will be hosting our July meeting at the county library on Long Beach Island. I encourage you all to attend. If you've never been, it'll be a great opportunity to see one of the state's premier shore destinations. No bathing suits to the meeting and afterwards. I also should note that today marks our last meeting of the fiscal year. In just a few weeks, many projects will be completed and new ones will get underway in July. This includes 4 local concept development studies that are wrapping up in Ocean, Monmouth, Morris, and Somerset counties. Ocean County will present on their study on Kennedy Boulevard and County Line Road in Lakewood, at the July board meeting. The project will help alleviate congestion and make traveling safer for people walking, biking, and driving. The NJTPA is also finishing its work with 8 subregions to develop local safety action plans. The final round of public outreach is being held now through early June to review the draft safety plans and their recommended improvements. With these plans completed, the counties and municipalities can seek funding for implementation through the Federal Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. That program is accepting applications for both infrastructure implementation and planning grants through June 26. Dave will share some highlights from other projects that are concluding in his report. But before I wrap up, I also want to share that the NJTPA is now accepting applications for the Local Mobility Initiatives Program, which is administered in partnership with NJ Transit. This program supports innovative shuttle bus services operated by counties and municipalities. One example of a past project is the Long Beach Island Shuttle Service. Long Beach Township received funding to operate the shuttle for 3 years, and after using the grant, has been able to maintain the program with municipal funding. The program can also be used to purchase vehicles. This year, eligible activities were expanded to include funding for micromobility devices like bikes, e-bikes, scooters, docking stations, and parking. I encourage subregions to take advantage of this program and to share this funding opportunity with municipalities and universities who are also eligible to apply. So at this time, that concludes the chairman's remarks. NJDOT, any remarks?
Yes, recently removed the MPO planning liaison function from statewide planning to the DOT division of capital investment and program. So it now falls under, and they came with me, Suzanne Tomlinson, who is the director, and Amy Polachek, who is the deputy director of that division. So they also in that division, they put together our capital program, they put together the STIP, they process all of the authorizations, both local and DOT that happened, and now they'll be collaborating with this as MPO liaison.
Thank you very much. NJ Transit, any remarks?
Just briefly, suspect folks know, but we are looking at a situation where we may have a cessation of all rail service as early as this Friday due to a labor issue. I definitely encourage everybody to visit our website for more. Please get the word out, because you would be surprised that some people do better things with their time than pay attention to transportation information, and as much as we can get the word out for folks.
Are any of the plans, I heard this on the radio in regards to New York, but are any of the plans operating now?
No, so the plans,
so people get used to it?
Right, so we don't really have the resources to do that. So the plans, the strike could happen as early as Friday. It doesn't have to happen Friday or some other time later. But the enhancements, and look, we can't do anything to move the volumes of people who go on the railroad on the bus, right? The math doesn't make. We don't have lots of extra buses lying. So the plan would be to augment as much as we can some existing routes and then add new service at 4 different park ride locations in the event that happens. But we don't really have the resources to do it.
Okay, and you're encouraging people, if it does happen, and hopefully it will not happen, hope for the best, if they can work from home, that seems to be the message.
Yeah, if you can do anything but take that trip, we definitely encourage. A very small percentage of the volume that we carry that can be carried through this.
Thank you very much. Let's hope for the best. Port Authority, any remarks?
We've been working closely with New Jersey Transit, just on preparations in case, anything needs to be done, but no other comments.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have the Executive Director's report. Dave?
All right. Thanks, Commissioner Kenny. Good morning, everybody. As the Commissioner mentioned, we are almost at the end of the fiscal year, and I'm happy to report that our finance staff has already worked with NJIT to get our accounts ready for the start of fiscal year 2026 on July 1st. As I mentioned at our joint committee meeting last month, but I do think it's worth repeating, that on April 11th, the Federal Highway Administration sent us a notification that they'd approved our FY 2026 Unified Planning Work Program, which the board adopted in March. This approval was very quick this year, came really sooner than expected, and that allowed us to get preparations underway to get those accounts set up with NJIT and to really have a seamless continuation of our work. So, and not just our work here at the NJTPA offices, but also the work that we're funding in the subregions and at the Transportation Management Associations. So I'd very much like to thank FHWA, SETAPA, and the rest of the folks there for that quick turnaround of our work program. So, the funding that we use and that the subregions and the TMAs and NJDOT and Transit and everyone else uses is authorized by the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, which increased funding for projects in our region and around the country over the past several years. The continuing resolution that was recently signed into law maintains funding levels of IIJA for the time being, and work for the next transportation authorization bill is already underway in Washington. And it does seem to be encouraging that the House and the Senate are having bipartisan discussions about the bill and how to continue federal transportation funding going forward after IIJA expires, which will happen in September of 2026. Our national organizations, the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations and the National Association of Regional Councils, are working in Washington, D.C. to contribute to those discussions, and I'll certainly keep the board informed of any progress on authorization going forward. Turning to our central staff activities here at the NJTPA, Commissioner Kenny mentioned our work on the draft long-range plan and the outreach that we're doing around the region. I just want to say that I really appreciate all the time staff has been putting into development of this plan, to being out there throughout our region, engaging the public and our stakeholders. I want to thank the sub-regional staff who've been assisting at outreach events, and to recognize the board members who've participated in these events, including recently Monmouth County Commissioner Director Tom Arnone, Hudson County Executive Craig Guy, and Passaic County Commissioner John Bartlett. And thanks in advance to all of you here who are planning to attend upcoming events. With this kind of support, we're able to reach many more people in our region. And I would say that if you know of anyone, or if you yourself are unable to attend any of these events, but you want to provide input, please go to our website where we have an online version of the engagement exercise that we're using at these events. Go to njtpa.org/connecting for connecting communities. And speaking of events, I just wanted to mention that as we do every year, we had a large presence at last month's New Jersey Transaction Conference. Staff members worked our booth, spoke on panels, and really just helped make this conference a success. I want to thank Commissioner Kenny and Union County Commissioner Betty Jane Kowalski, both of whom served as moderators on NJTPA-led panel action. We also had a booth at the New Jersey Association of Counties Conference last week. We were joined by many of our board members, including Kenny, Sarnosky, Kowalski, Bartlett, and Commissioner Suey, as well as County Executive Tedesco, Mayor Baraka, DOT Commissioner O'Connor. And I should definitely note that Commissioner Kowalski, who will be retiring at the end of this year, was inducted into NJAC's Commissioners Hall of Fame at the conference. So congratulations, Commissioner Kowalski, and thanks for everything you've done. We're also going to be at the New Jersey Conference of Mayors later this month to promote our programs for municipalities. That includes planning for emerging centers, which provides technical assistance for planning for more sustainable, transit-supportive, and walkable communities. Solicitation for the program has just gone out and is posted on our website. If you're interested in, take a look at that. County folks, please share that with your municipal networks. Those are programs that are open only to municipalities, but we do ask that those municipalities have the direct support of our sub-regional members when they apply. So with the fiscal year coming to a close on June 30th, Central Staff's been wrapping up a lot of key planning activities, several of which feed into the development of the Connecting Communities Long-Range Plan. That includes 3 technical efforts, which use data analysis and modeling to give us insight into conditions in the region and help shape investments. Those are the updated congestion management process the updated regional capital investment strategy, and also our freight industry level forecasts. All of these are pretty intense data analysis of various movement and transportation needs in our region, and there's more information on all these on our website, and you'll hear more about the freight forecast and the Freight Initiatives Committee report. Other planning efforts, wrapping up, focus on assisting subregions and municipalities. Commissioner Kenny mentioned the local safety action plans, which have successfully engaged local officials and the public in developing those plans. There's also our Vibrant Places program, which is helping Patterson, Passaic County work to design improvements to underutilized parks in South Patterson's commercial district. Another Vibrant Places program project is with CoLab Arts in New Brunswick. We're developing a placemaking plan to revitalize the network of underpasses that connect the city's downtown and the Esperanza neighborhood. We're also wrapping up 5 Complete Streets technical assistance projects, 4 corridor assessments that recommend various safety improvements, and a bicycle plan. As an example of what that program does, Verona Township used the program to explore ways to improve safety for people walking, biking, and driving on Linden Avenue. And that project was one of several we featured at Transaction last month. 3 NJTPA-funded subregional studies are also concluding by June 30th. These subregional studies program, as you know, allows our members to explore key planning issues and often lays the groundwork for future capital projects. This round, Hudson County is finalizing its Wetz-Hudson circulation and connectivity study. Middlesex County completed 5 road safety audits, and Warren County is developing a comprehensive streets policy. Those final reports and products will be coming out shortly in the coming weeks. There's more information in the central staff highlights that were distributed to board via email before this meeting, and there'll be more information to come on our website. I do want to quickly note that this is a critical time to remind everyone about our Street Smart program and about the importance of safe driving, walking, and biking as more people are going to be out and about during the nice weather and summer months. We're going to be doing a kickoff later this month down on Long Beach Island for the summer campaign. And we also recently had a kickoff event in Teaneck, which was organized by the Easy Ride TMA and featured County Executive Tedesco as a speaker. As always, if you know of any interested communities, please let them know about Street Smart, let them know about us, and there's a lot more information on that at bstreetsmartnj.org. Before closing, it's been a long report, I know, thank you for your patience. I do have a few more announcements. The Morris Canal Working Group will have a virtual meeting on May 28th. The group, which helps advance this greenway that spans our region, meets twice a year to get updates on events, funding sources, and project status, and to generally share information. More details on our website. Again, that's May 28th. In other trail news, Morris County is celebrating the grand opening of the Pompton Valley Rail Trail on May 29th. This project, which was funded through the NJTPA, converts 5.1 miles of former rail right-of-way into a trail connecting Connick and Morris County and Wayne and Passaic County. So it's a nice example of a multi-jurisdictional regional project. I also encourage you to take a look on the website for the latest issue of In Transition magazine, which focuses on various pedestrian safety efforts across the country. You can find that through the link on our homepage. And finally, before I close out, I do want to recognize 2 people who are joining us for their last NJTPA board meeting. First is Tom Malavasi, Hudson County, who's retiring July 1st. He's been the Hudson County alternate for the county executive for the past few years, and for many years prior to that, we worked with him in his capacity as the county engineer. So Tom, great to work with you over the years. We thank you for everything you've done for the NJTPA and wish you the best.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, Mr.
The second person who is attending last NJTPA board meeting is Mark Soloff, who is our Director of Communications and Public Affairs. He's retiring June 1st. He's been at the NJTPA for 32 years and worked for our predecessor agency, the North Jersey Transportation Coordinating Council, for a few years prior to that. Over the years, he's done a lot of great work on many long-range plans. He's compiled those central staff highlights that we send you. He's overseen our video and graphics design team, and really played an important part in organizing these meetings and making them happen, and many other things. including a lot of work on our website and just many other things. He was one of the first people I spoke to when I walked in the door to interview for a much different job than the one I have now, but back in the year 2000. So I've known Mark for my entire tenure at the NJTPA and appreciate everything he's done. Here's Mark. He's hiding out in the back. Thank you, Mark. Again, congratulations to you both on your retirement. We certainly wish you the best.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
So at this time, we're going to move to committee reports. So I'm going to call on Commissioner Rich to give the Project Prioritization Committee report.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm pleased to report on the activities of the Project Prioritization Committee at the April 21st Joint Committee meeting. The committee considered 3 action items that require board approval today. The first is a minor amendment to the fiscal year 2024-2027 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, to add federal funds to the Route 4 Hackensack River Bridge project in Bergen County. This request is to add $35.4 million for the construction fiscal year 2025, increasing the total to $224.8 million. The additional funds will cover cost increases for accelerated bridge construction, electrical and roadway lighting, and purchasing environmental mitigation credits. Next, Chairman, is a minor amendment to the TIP to align and increase federal funds on the Route 206 Valley Road to Brown Avenue project in Somerset County. This request is to add $33.5 million for construction fiscal year 2026, increasing the total to $120.5 million. This action also realigns funding with the revised construction schedule, allocating $3 million in fiscal year 2027, $50 million in fiscal year 2028, $46 million in fiscal year 2029, and $21.5 million in fiscal year 2030. At the Joint Committee meeting, Somerset County Commissioner Sarah Sui expressed concerns over the pace to the project schedule and encouraged everyone involved to complete the work as soon as possible, and I second that as I live in that area. The final item is a minor amendment to the TIP to add funds to the Landing Road Bridge project in Morris County. This project is advancing with state funding rather than federal funding, but is subject to the same procedures for TIP revisions. This request is for the addition of $18 million for construction in fiscal year 2025, increasing the total to $40 million. Cost increases are due to additional night work and flagging needed to accommodate New Jersey Transit rail operations, as well as the incorporation of several significant structural design features, including a lane for left turns, a shared user shoulder for bicyclists, and a Lake Copacon wall restoration. This concludes the Project Prioritizations Committee report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rich. So we have 3 action items from the Project Prioritization Committee on today's agenda. The first is a minor amendment to the FY 2024-2027 TIP to add federal funds to the Route 4 Hackensack River Bridge project in Bergen County. I understand Bergen would like to make a motion on this item.
Bergen County makes a motion to move the item.
Thank you very much. Hudson,
Hudson, second.
thank you very much. Any comments from the board members? Any comments from the public? Any comments, Ted, anybody by phone?
No one's joining by phone.
Perfect. Denise, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Bergen County,
Yes.
Essex County.
Yes.
Hudson County.
Yes.
Hunterdon County.
Yes.
Jersey City.
Yes.
Middlesex County.
Yes.
Monmouth County.
Yes.
Morris County.
Yes.
Ocean County.
Yes.
Passaic County.
Yes.
Somerset County.
Yes.
Sussex County.
Yes.
Union County.
Yes.
Warren County.
Yes.
The Governor's Office.
Yes.
NJDOT.
Yes.
New Jersey Transit.
Yes.
Port Authority.
Yes.
Citizens Rep.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Denise. The second item is a minor amendment to the FY 24-27 TIP to align and increase federal funds on the Route 206 Valley Road to Brown Avenue project in Somerset County. I understand Essex County would like to move this item.
Essex moves.
Thank you very much. Sussex, will you second?
Sussex seconds.
Thank you very much. Any comments from the board members on this item? Any comments from the public? So Denise, would you please take the roll?
Yes. Bergen County.
Yes.
Essex County.
Yes.
Hudson County.
Yes.
Hunterdon County.
Yes.
Jersey City.
Yes.
Middlesex County.
Yes.
Monmouth County.
Yes.
Morris County,
Yes.
Ocean County,
Yes.
Passaic County,
Yes.
Somerset County,
Yes.
Sussex County,
Yes.
Union County,
Yes.
Warren County,
Yes.
the Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
Yes.
New Jersey Transit,
Yes.
Port Authority,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Denise. The last item we have is a minor amendment to the tip to add funds to the Landing Road Bridge Project in Morris County. I understand Morris County would like to move this item.
Yes, Morris County moves.
Thank you very much. Union County, will you second?
Yes. We second from Union.
Thank you very much. Any comments from the board members? Any comments from the public? Denise, would you take the roll?
Yes. Bergen County,
Yes.
Essex County,
Yes.
Hudson County,
Yes.
Hunterdon County,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Yes.
Middlesex County,
Yes.
Monmouth County,
Yes.
Morris County,
Yes.
Ocean County,
Yes.
Passaic County,
Yes.
Somerset County,
Yes.
Sussex County,
Yes.
Union County,
Yes.
Warren County,
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
Yes.
New Jersey Transit,
Yes.
Port Authority,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. At this time, we're going to have the Commissioner Betty Jane Kowalski will give us the Planning and Economic Development Committee report. Commissioner Kowalski?
Thank you, Vice Chairman. It's my pleasure to report on the activities of the Planning and Economic Development Committee's April meeting. The meeting featured a presentation by Will Irving, an associate professor of practice who leads the Rutgers Economic Advisory Service. He presented an economic and demographic outlook forecast related to the long-range plan, warning of a potentially challenging economic period for New Jersey over the next 2 years before a return to modest long-term growth. He said the most recent Rutgers forecast, completed in December, projected a slowdown in the state's gross domestic product, or GDP, with the state continuing to lag behind national growth rates. However, in the long term, the unemployment rate is expected to stay at 4.7%. Federal policy changes related to immigration could also have an impact on the state. He noted that while New Jersey has experienced significant domestic outmigration over the past 2 decades, averaging about 50,000 people annually, international migration to the state has offset this loss, preventing population decline. A decline in international migration would slow population growth. He said it's a particularly challenging time to provide economic forecasts with so much in flux. The next forecast, expected in late June, will incorporate revisions to the 2024 data and the first quarter of 2025 data. Central staff also briefed the committees on several projects, including progress on developing local safety action plans for 8 counties. Staff also shared that a significant update about our progress in meeting regional performance measures is available on the NJTPA website. That concludes the Planning and Economic Development Committee report. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Kowalski. At this time, we're going to have the Freight Initiatives report with Commissioner Stephen Shaw going to present it. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I'm pleased to report on the April 21st Freight Initiatives Committee meeting. Central staff reported that the technical work for the 2050 freight industry level forecast update is almost complete, with the project wrapping up at the end of next month. The study will provide data on commodity flows around the region, including profiles of each county. It will also include an analysis of e-commerce. The findings will be presented at the June 16th Freight Initiatives Committee meeting. The fiscal year 2025 Freight Concept Development Program studies are underway. This is a 4-part effort that includes the Southern Middlesex County North-South Truck Corridor Project in Cranberry and Monroe in Middlesex County, the East Hanover Avenue Bridge Catenary Rail Clearance Project in Morris Plains and Morris Township in Morris County, the preliminary screening for Plate F vertical rail clearance in Perth Amboy, and related program support activities. At the meeting, Janice Marino Doyle, a program specialist with NJDOT's Office of Freight Planning, and representatives from WSP presented on a 2-phase study looking into the critical shortage of truck parking in New Jersey.
The study analyzed 55 segments along New Jersey's roadway network covering major freight corridors. It identified 76 truck parking facilities with 2,886 striped spaces. More than 500 long and short haul truck drivers completed surveys as part of this effort, identifying significant issues, including 74% of long haul drivers spend over 30 minutes finding parking. 62% frequently find no designated spaces, and 75% must routinely detour more than 5 miles to find a space. Sections of Interstates 95, 78, 80, and 295 had the greatest parking needs. Crowded segments now have a daily shortfall of 20 to 35 spaces, and this could triple by 2050, where there could be a total shortfall of 1,700 to 1,800 spaces statewide. Overall, looking at detours and cost of crashes, insufficient truck parking causes losses of nearly $93 million annually in New Jersey. Potential solutions discussed include public capacity expansion, public-private partnerships, improved rest area design, and modifying local ordinances to include short-term truck parking at industrial facilities. Commissioner Kowalski mentioned that objections to truck parking near towns may become less of an issue as we move to electric trucks. Also at the meeting, as part of our regular committee member reports, I was pleased to share that Morris County is reviewing proposals for the design of the Chester Branch Rail Bridge over Berkshire Valley Road in Roxbury, a graduate of NJTPA's Freight Concept Development Program that later received funding from NJDOT's Rail Freight Assistance Program. Morris County also recently received another award from the same program to rehabilitate a rail bridge that carries the Dover and Rockaway Railroad over the Rockaway River. Ms. Marino Doyle said that the NJDOT's next Freight Advisory Committee meeting will be on July 18th and noted the agency is gearing up for its next freight plan update. Mr. Vice Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. At this time, we're going to turn to the public participation portion of the meeting. As a reminder, we advise members of the public that we have a three-minute time limit on comments. The light on the timer will go from green to yellow when there are 30 seconds remaining, and then red, and that means your 3 minutes are up. We ask that you keep your comments within this allotted time. We will start with members of the public who are here in the room and have signed up to speak. Ed, do we have anybody that signed up to speak ahead of time?
No, Commissioner, nobody signed up in advance.
Thank you very much. Anybody in the room would like to speak? Raise your hand. All right, thank you very much. Anybody by Zoom, Ted?
No, sir, not today.
All right, that'll end the public portion of this meeting. And I know you're all probably thinking I forgot about our guest speaker, but I did not. So this time, we are going to go to our presentation, our feature presentation, which is an update on the priority issues for the NJTPA and the region. Zoe Baldwin is Vice President of the State Programs and New Jersey Director of Regional Plan Association. Ms. Baldwin has over 20 years of experience in public policy at the state and federal levels and leads research, planning, and advocacy activities here in New Jersey. So Zoe, are you ready?
All right. Good afternoon or morning. It's morning.
Morning.
It's one of those days. Happy Monday. So I'm Zoe Baldwin, Vice President for State Programs at the Regional Plan Association. And I guess a good place to start is a little bit about who we are. We're the nation's oldest metropolitan research, planning, and advocacy organization. And we work in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. On the map right here is kind of our research area. Obviously, our policy extends statewide. But broadly, we work to improve the region's economic health, environmental resilience, mobility, and quality of life. And so we're 100 years old. And so what we do is we specialize in looking way down the road and then helping cities, agencies, and advocates get there step by step. And so we were founded in 1922, and we've basically spent the past century researching and analyzing the built environment and making recommendations for long-term projects and policies. These are our main research areas: land use, transportation, housing, good governance, and the environment. And again, we work to enact the policies kind of in these and make sure our systems are working. And again, the common thread is systems here, the systems that we live inside of every day and how those systems either support or undermine our well-being. So since 1929, we've released 4 long-range plans to guide the growth and development of the region. These plans have led to the establishment of some of the region's most significant infrastructure, open space, and economic development projects, including the George Washington Bridge, Gateway National Park, and even the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail. We, of course, wanted it to go to Bergen. But the most recent one was released in 2017, and that guides a lot of the work that we do today, which is why I'm so excited to say this is probably familiar to most people in this room, but the Gateway project is finally in construction and advancing. And I can't express how important this is. And I'd like to share, so RPA actually just released a fantastic report outlining the economic promise that the full Gateway program is going to bring to the region. And so what that means is not just the construction, which is a lot of the time when we talk about projects, we're talking about jobs and immediate impacts because of that. But the long-term through 2060 impact of this is going to be about $230 billion in economic activity for the tri-state area and $170 billion nationwide in its first 15 years of operation, so 2045 to 2060. And construction alone is projected to generate about $43 billion of that. And so this is also going to support about 24,000 jobs each year in the region and 46,000 jobs nationally through construction, labor, increased demand for goods and services, and labor market access. And it's going to be great to highlight these benefits like these in addition to the clear commuter benefits, because anyone who has been at the mercy of the Portal Bridge on an ornery day can tell you the cost of this inefficiency is massive. And as we've really been experiencing lately, this is a really fragile system. We had the summer of hell last year. We have a looming strike now, and I feel like we have not in a very long time been reminded of just how critical this system is. And so, the tunnels are over 110 years old. And if one of them goes down, we lose 75% of our peak capacity. And that basically shuts down the region. And then financially, a partial shutdown of the tunnel, even without full collapse, would cost the U.S. economy $16 billion over 4 years. And so a lot of that's like lost productivity, freight delays, increased car traffic from people having to drive, especially because what we're looking at now with this consistent unreliability in our system, and something that I'm very concerned about looking at the looming strike ahead, is actually mode shift. I'm very concerned that we are allowing the system to get to a level of unreliability where people who do have the choice won't choose transit. And so that's something that we really need to think about. We have a slightly different ecosystem here than we do in New York. When you're talking about strap hangers and you're talking about MTA, where you have a very broad spectrum of the populace dependent on transit. Here we have more people that are dependent on it or reliant on it for their commutes, but not for every day. And that really changes ownership and dedication to the system. And so we need to make sure that we have everyone in this room and the people that rely on the system, your constituents, really focused on making sure that the state continues to invest, because this is going to be a problem. And Gateway is more than just one project, and we'll get to that in a second. But for those of you who may still be cynics, I hope none of you are, we ran, I want to say it was 2021, we did a report that looked at 4 different scenarios of varying levels of work from home and return to office. And it showed that under every single one of those scenarios, we need this capacity. So beyond the delays, we are growing and our population is wanting to get to the city by transit. And so this really isn't about restoring service. It's about preparing for the growth that we already have. And so, just common sense, you got to build ahead of need, not after it or not behind it, right? So what are we building? Because again, I want to reference, a lot of people use shorthand, they say the Gateway Tunnel. And the tunnel is a great project. We're very excited. It's very necessary. But the full Gateway program has major supporting projects. Many of them are underway, including the Portal Bridge. but it's all of these bridges, stations, loops, and yards that actually make the whole system more resilient and get us where we need to go. We need that full panoply of projects to get the economic system and capacity benefits, like the one-seat ride for the River Line. But there's some good news for a change. We're actually making some real progress. Historic federal funding is in place for phase 1, and construction has started on both sides of the river on the Hudson Yards components, Portal Bridge, and of course, the tunnel itself. And after more than a decade since the death of ARC, Gateway isn't just a plan, it's actually in motion. And so we all, though, need to remember that we had shovels in the ground last time. And so just assuming that because this thing is going along, that it's going to keep going along, especially in our current climate, I think that it's a little bit of a danger zone. We need to keep our advocacy going, and we need to make sure that we continue to have the supports that are going to advance this project. So I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Is a good place as any to get ahead of some of the questions I assume some of you are going to have on Gateway and just broader federal funding issues that folks in this room are probably aware of. And so I actually want to start by flagging something that I think most people don't think of top of mind, but I've been kind of in the weeds on this at the federal and state levels for a couple of decades. And so if you really look at what our trends are doing in terms of the relationship between the federal and the state government, we've actually been seeing a long-term functional shift away from a more federalist-led structure, right? We're leaving the primary burden of the actual policy decisions up to states. And so I would actually argue that, this is very apparent in the last, 100 or so days. But this shift has actually been going on for a really long time. Look at offshore wind development. Everywhere in the world, that was a federally led project, a nationally led project. And here we left it up to states. And that's a really emblematic vision or understanding of kind of functionally where we're going. It hasn't been a stated change. But if you really drill down into what's going on right now, the majority of what the federal government does is they provide some funding, and that's even before the Trump administration. Anyone working in procurement knows that there's been a little bit of jockeying for how your project gets prioritized if you have less federal component towards it. And other than that, they offer some financing and incentives for like good decisions, air quotes, as opposed to true national policy initiatives or implementation frameworks, right? So what that means is in context of IIJA, everyone loved reading off these big top line federal numbers and then, kind of relating it to the New Deal, but the two couldn't kind of be different or more different, right? So for transportation, IIJA kind of just plussed up our existing capital programs and, through the formula funds. And so it basically accelerated all of your existing programs for better or for worse. On the local level, I'm sure a lot of you realize we got a lot of paving because there's no design in paving. You can kind of roll it out quickly and your constituents feel it. But this is really, really different than like kind of the broad policy-focused implementation program with a stated vision like we saw in the 1930s. And I'm not minimizing the importance of IIJA. Competitive funding is really, really important, but it is born of a structure that favors local control and generally produces less predictable results because it's kind of unevenly implemented. So crashes, traffic, pollution, obviously don't observe political boundaries, but the policies that govern them do, and those are increasingly being made at home. And land use follows into that immediately. It's that same format, swapping out municipalities and counties for states as like the local entity. And I use that framing just to highlight the importance of the work in everyone's in this room and the diligence, right? Because the key detail is that even under a more supportive administration, there's no superhero swooping in. This is not a 4-year problem. This onus of action has for a long time been shifting to the states and therefore on the ecosystem that's represented in this room, the advocates and practitioners that inform all of these decisions. And so I came across this recently while writing comments for a different event, but I started working in infrastructure policy about 25 years ago, and transportation was kind of a bipartisan issue at the time. And New Jersey was a national leader in planning and smart growth, and believe it or not, project delivery. People used to compare MTA and say, man, I wish they could build like NJ Transit does. And I didn't realize it at the time, but we were rapidly expanding our rail system. And I just want to pause to emphasize this because this is kind of impressive. I had no idea what an outlier I started my career in terms of like an era. But, you had the Hudson Bergen Light Rail, started in 1996, kind of went through 2011. But that's now a core spine for the region. We got increased access to one-seat rides. We had broader system expansions in light rail. Secaucus Junction was a game changer for the system. And although it doesn't run all the time, and Jim Kirkos really is on point with really advocating for it too, Meadowlands is an important line, and it's going to be an increasingly important line just beyond the World Cup. And so we had this incredible sustained period of investment, of vision, leadership, and momentum, and then nothing. All progress stopped kind of during the Christie administration, both because of the recession that happened at the time and because the death of the ARC tunnel kind of really just tipped the system in a way that we kind of have not actually recovered from. But and investment improved a lot under Murphy, but we're dealing with decades of structural deficit, right? So we're playing catch up, and that's what we're seeing is structural deficit is for an agency, what it looks like, how the cost of being poor, how we talk about that for individuals in poverty. And so I just bring this up again to reemphasize the weight of state visioning and local action, because this shift in transit policy was largely driven by local decisions. If you notice, this was a lot of Bush era and Obama era. And actually, the Bush era is when we got, who was not particularly rail friendly, is when we got a lot of these projects started and going and kept them moving. And so even under the Obama administration, which was more friendly towards rail, we just didn't see that same type of a thing. And so point is, we have this in our muscle memory, we have this in our DNA, and this is in our control despite what's going on at the federal level. We actually have a very robust state capital program here. But one of the things that we need to do to get back to that golden age, and this is really important for NJTPA and the folks following in this room, is really acknowledging the inextricable relationship between land use and transportation. And again, land use decisions, these are in your control. These are locally made decisions, and they affect all of everything else that goes into it. The biggest factor in how people get around and how well they can get around actually has a lot more to do with land use and what we put where, development patterns, et cetera, than it does on the actual transportation assets itself. And so this is just like a quick sign, like you can think of Princeton Junction would be a good one to put into this model. Surrounded by giant surface parking lots. They're doing a bunch of development there now, but this was just a generic graphic we had put together for a recent report to show that. And so as this graphic shows, there are dramatically different emissions and resource intensities between the type of land use growth that, between sprawl, transit-oriented development. And so here what you have is our existing growth pattern. If we keep on trend and don't pay more attention to infill and transit-oriented development, and then what that could look like if we actually did make smart, thoughtful decisions about making our system more efficient for both businesses and people, right? And the other thing that's worth mentioning here is that the TOD model is actually very good for taxpayers and for local budgets, in addition to the more, better environment, active lifestyle. This type of definition means that every dollar spent on infrastructure investment helps more constituents per square foot. So like every mile of pipe, pavement, or rail impacts a higher percentage of your residents. And that's just good finance, especially in a state that is almost paralyzed by our property tax discussions. So everyone likes demanding that there's transit, that transit should be more efficient and roads be less congested. And then we're making land use decisions at the local level that do not support any of these improvements. And we really need to be much more intentional about these relationships. And so, as you can see, the higher density also allows for more efficient land use, reducing per unit construction costs, and encourages communities of scale. And just to be clear about that TOD graphic, that's not like a bunch of Hobokens in the state. That is looking at the potential future for prioritizing infill and rehab with current densities without making everything look like Hoboken, because that's kind of the false dichotomy that gets brought up. So speaking of false dichotomies, I just wanted to kind of just re-emphasize here that smart growth is really context sensitive. This is just a range of built forms from single family homes to mid-rise apartments and high-rise down there at the end. And just a reminder that density doesn't have to mean skyscrapers. Dense is relative. It can mean townhomes. We talk a lot about missing middle housing, small apartments over shops, accessory dwelling units. And this is all going to make our transportation system more efficient to maintain, and then also just for people to get around. And the good news is that this is already baked into a lot of our communities. And so this is from a recent Homes on Track report that this crowd might find really interesting. We did we analyzed transit-oriented development readiness at every heavy rail passenger stop in New York and downstate New York and New Jersey. And so the research found that about half of New Jersey residents already live within a 10-minute walk of transit. So we have a really good base. We're not starting from scratch. We just need to plan smart, remove some of our outdated barriers, and really keep going. And I can't focus on the word intentionally enough. And so that's where I'm going to leave it this morning. There are so many things that I really could have gone through here. We have Port Authority Bus Terminal is going to be one of the biggest, most important projects that constituents in North Jersey are going to feel immediately. I took that bus for a long time. I'm sorry if any of you here go into that terminal. It's rough. It is rough. And the vision that Port Authority has is fantastic, and it is going to be excellent. But again, we have to remember that when projects just have shovels in the ground, that's not time to forget about it and move on to the next thing. These really take stewardship. And again, especially, these are long-term investments. This growth is coming no matter what our kind of return to work from home scenarios look like. And so much of this is in local hands. And so I will leave it there. Oh, the other thing I did want to add is don't forget about the resources that NJTPA has for you also. And so they are one of New Jersey's best kept secrets in a lot of ways. And so when we're talking about vibrant downtowns and we're talking about some of the placemaking stuff that really helps get your station area or your downtown looking good, NJTPA can be there to help with that. So whether you're thinking about it, what can I get down in my downtown for a World Cup related celebration? What opportunities can we boost placemaking? How can we make ourselves more vibrant? And then how can we make sure that those are all pointing in towards the direction of our transportation investments so that we're really getting the most out of our placemaking and making our places as vibrant as possible? So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Zoe. Anybody have any questions from the board? Yes, sir. Commissioner Shaw?
So as you know, New Jersey's a home rule state.
Yeah.
And a couple of regional plans that I'm very familiar with, obviously the state plan and the Highlands Regional Master Plan, they all in their formation called for designation of centers. And in most cases, those centers don't get designated because the local municipality doesn't want them. So how do you, it just seems like an impossible situation. I mean, how do you resolve that with the state being a home rule state and these, great regional planning concepts can't be implemented? The preservation side seems to get implemented, but the planning and growth side does not.
If I had a really good answer for that, I would not be standing in this room, right? However, I would share it with you though. But I think the non-flippant answer to that is we need to have better visioning for what we're talking about. I think it's very easy for plans to get ahead of a really well illustrated vision of what we're talking about. And so it becomes easy for folks in Bernardsville to say, oh, this transit-oriented development, this is going to make it Hoboken. We're not Hoboken. And then everyone, kind of fluffs up the NIMBY crowd. And so I think one of the things I would say is getting designs out as early as possible is very, very helpful. Visually show people what you're doing. I think a lot of times we're responding, we're reacting, and we're just trying to get something out. But when there's a fear to bring people to the table, but if you start with a visual, it is very, very, very helpful. And so I think there's that. I think the other piece is honestly education, because at this point, everyone can say we need housing, but in someone else's town. You can read the van line study as much as you want, but neither of those address what is a very real need for governance. Governance is a verb. It's not a static thing that exists on paper. And we need to be working with our mayors and our planning departments and our people to understand that a lot of people have more than two children. They're increasing population. We're a great state to live in. We're going to keep attracting new people. And so we have to be very real about that. And so that's where I think having like a mixed version of density and an understanding of we designate growth centers because we want to direct growth into smart and sustainable places. It's not a perfect answer. I could poke holes in my own answer, but
So I would say, what is smart growth? Because I'm certainly not in favor of dumb growth, but it's hard to define smart growth.
well, dumb growth is when you put a warehouse out in the middle of nowhere and then allow the warehouse to say, NJ Transit needs to run a new bus line because I can't get workers to my warehouse. Or when you put it in the middle of a residential area and then your constituents are angry, right? And so how do we look at this? Bodies like NJTPA are excellent resources for that regional planning, for those conversations. Remember years ago, it was the big issue of the big box stores. Everyone put the big box store right on the border of town, so all the traffic would go there and they'd get the ratables, right? We have to stop that. And I think conversations like this are the only way to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Anybody else from the board?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
So you spoke quite a bit about transit-oriented development, and you talked about the importance of replacing the Port Authority bus terminal. It seems like the conversations in New Jersey around TOD tend to center around the rail station. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about TOD that's a little more focused or oriented toward the bus network.
So that gets a little more complicated. It was interesting because, I say this with love for NJ Transit. A huge part of my job is helping make sure NJ Transit is a well-funded, excellent organization. But because of the structural deficits, they have trouble with data. And that's just a fact of an underfunded agency. And so when the Aspire regulations came out, they actually did cite like high-frequency bus stops should be eligible for this type of benefit. And there's this whole behind-the-scenes back and forth about, well, give us a list of the high-frequency bus stops in the transit network, and we don't have them because bus A changes a little bit more frequently. Rail is called fixed rail for a reason. And bus stop isn't a bus stop isn't a bus stop, right? So you have a few hubs where you could really do this. We actually are creating a methodology right now for this exact TOD study. On the bus side, we're piloting it in Connecticut and hope to bring that to New Jersey as well. The original part was just funding rail studies, which is traditional and easier. So happy to share that with this crowd then. But we do need to be looking at bus, but we need to make sure it's meaningful bus hubs with decent headways. Otherwise, again, we're going to call it transit-oriented development. There's going to be one bus line that you're going to need 3 connections to get anywhere useful. And so I think it's a little bit of making sure that we're thinking about the nerdier, less sexy parts of transit, like data collection, and then also thinking about really prioritizing and naming those places.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, right ahead.
Hi, Zoe. I think as you astutely pointed, regional transportation doesn't stop at the Hudson River. It's not 1910, right? So yet a lot of our funding systems, agencies, mechanisms do. They don't cross the river. So has RPA or any others really taken on that conversation of how do we look at sort of regional funding to fund the kind of transit that we need?
We have, and we really, really wanted to do some sort of a pilot with the World Cup. But part of this is not New Jersey's fault. We got notice of our winning of the World Cup designation like a little late in the game. But that is something that we absolutely need to be looking for. That was part of the problem of the implementation with congestion pricing. Everywhere else in the world has been implemented. All of these systems are more integrated. And so especially when we think about having World Cup or other world events like this, we're going to need to make the system easier to use. I personally was frustrated when PATH went with not Omni because now I have 2 different systems, just for those alone. And so RPA has been looking at cross compatibility. We need to be looking at this in a much more robust and meaningful way. But again, What we do is look at the long-term pieces and eventually shepherd our agencies there. I think without more people calling for it, it's going to be harder to do.
Anyone else? Anybody from the public? All right, Zoe, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. All right. All right, so at this time, we are going to be moving to adjournment. The time and place of the next meeting, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be in Ocean County at the county library's Beach Island Branch, 217 South Central Ave in Surf City on July 14th at 10:30 a.m. So at this time, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Morris County moves to adjourn.
Thank you, Mort.
Second, Passaic.
Second by Passaic. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you all very much. We adjourn. No problem. Well done, Chairman. Thank you.
I think 20-minute report.
What's that?
with the executive. I know.
Could have gone to the